number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons, and we cover Broadway and off-Broadway theater. And I am coming to you from the Wainscott studio, where I have a special guest today, Matt Rogatis, who's a producer and came all the way out here to chat with us about your recent production that you're going to be doing of The Glass Menagerie. How exciting.
Very exciting, yes, extremely exciting.
And Matt has brought a friend with him, Spencer, who's going to play the gentleman caller.
Yes.
Spencer Scott?
Spencer Scott, yes.
Yeah, thank you for coming, both of you. It's really,
thanks for having
really
us.
Great to be
here.
here.
Get you to come out here and do this.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, you know, what I really find interesting about what you're doing is how you've self-produced. You started in like 2014, did you say?
Yeah, you know, I was acting, doing things, you know, the traditional way when I was living in the city. And it was very frustrating. And, you know, you just kind of felt like you couldn't break through that glass ceiling. And there were other events going on in my life at the time. And I actually stopped acting completely for 4 years, from 2010 to 2014. And then I had a friend, Jim Kempner. I want to give a shout out to my friend Jim Kempner, who owns the Jim Kempner Fine Art Gallery in Chelsea. He was doing a little show, and he asked if I would come and just, you know, do the sound in his gallery. They were putting on a little performance. And I said I would come. And it was that night that I was watching them act in his gallery that I just started to feel it again, like, okay, I think I want to start getting back into this again. And then Jim and I talked afterwards, and I said, hey, there's a fantastic play by John Logan called Red. I said, you could play Mark Rothko, I could play Ken, your assistant, we could stage it here in the Jim Kempner Fine Art Gallery. And we were like, all right, let's do it.
This is your first production, Red?
Yeah, that was in 2000.
That's a dynamite play.
Yeah, really so we did that. And
how many performances did you do?
It was small. It was small in the gallery. We did like 6 performances. It was like 2 weeks. Yeah, and then that kind of kick-started a chain of events that has now brought me to the Glass Menagerie. Yeah.
Well, you have bit off a big chunk of American history, literature, and Tennessee Williams, and it's a lot of real classic.
Pressure and stress, you know, not only playing Tom, but also producing the show acting as well. To do both.
We talked about that a little bit before, that I have done similar things like that with a few shows that I did in New York too, and Zena, my acting coach, directed me in some of them. So it's real, and she never quite understood that I couldn't always focus on the acting, that I had to be thinking about other things in the background.
Absolutely. I don't think people, unless you've done it, you don't have the appreciation, I don't think, for how much work really goes into a production that you're trying to mount off-Broadway in New York City, and the pressure and the stress and the budgets and
you have to
advertising
keep all the balls in the air at the same time. You can't let any of them drop.
Absolutely, and questions are coming at you from all angles. Where, you know, where's rehearsal today? Where is this? Hey, what's the publicist? Oh, you have to do this interview. It's endless, you know. Yeah. And really, it's total commitment.
No, but what's really, and Spencer, we spoke about this earlier too, because you work. What's your company? You work with a company you said that does the same thing.
Yes, I'm a member of the company called the Greenhouse Ensemble, which is an arts company. We produce theater and music, live shows and art installations, and it's all about creating fully realized work and really hammering out great performances and really allowing artists to perfect their craft. And it's the same thing. It's
and where is it?
It's a company based in Manhattan. It's the same thing. It's so much work. We do even these little things where we produce a bunch of one-act plays, short 10-minute plays by playwrights, and just to do that for 3 nights is like weeks and weeks and weeks of work and finding the plays.
When they do that, will they work on the 10-minute script? Do they come with a set, or will they change it in the process?
It's
different every time.
It's different every time. They have ideas sometimes. Sometimes it's more, you know, free form, but yeah, it's just a ton of work to put on shows.
So Matt, I want to stay focused a little bit on your project that we're doing. So you hooked up Austin Pendleton, who is a renowned director. I directed Elizabeth Taylor in The Little Foxes,
Absolutely.
amongst many other things. You hooked up with him for a play called The Wars of the Roses. Tell us about what that was.
Okay, so Wars of the Roses was sort of our own incarnation of Richard III. And Austin would always tell everyone, this is a new play by Shakespeare. And in a sense, it was, because, you know, so the play Richard III...
In a sense, it was because you took 2 Shakespeare plays.
Yeah. So if you start with just Richard III, Richard starts off evil, and he's evil for 4 hours. But in King Henry VI, Part 3, you see a more vulnerable Richard, you know, more of a loyal son and, you know, loyal brother to King Edward. And then you see the events that take place that sort of shape his tyranny. So Austin said, well, why don't we take King Henry VI, Part 3, and, you know, with some judicious cutting, combine it with Richard III. So now we have the arc of Richard III. We see how he becomes the monster that he ends up as in Richard III. So
this was Austin's brainchild, so to speak?
Yeah, this was Austin's brainchild.
And he brought it to you, or you started talking to him about it initially? How did it come to be?
We had been talking for a while about doing a show together, and then I had thrown out Richard III to him, and he said, yes, what I've always wanted to do was this. So then we got together, and we
And you did this where, when?
We did this in 2018. We had 2 runs of it. And we're hoping for a larger run, probably sometime in 2020. But it was very successful. It was very well reviewed. We ran it in the last summer, and then a special 3 nights last December. And then as soon as that ended, you know, we've now gone into Glass Menagerie. But we're hoping to come back to Richard III.
But will you bring it back to New York, the Wars of the Roses?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was very well received, and it was just, you know, it was a matter of we just need to make it bigger. So
this was your first project with Austin Pendleton that you worked together and did things together. And so then how did Glass Menagerie come about?
Okay, so Glass Menagerie is very interesting how this came about.
Do you want to show the picture of your cast first and then talk
Sure,
about it?
throw it up.
Can
show
we have
up.
it?
Yeah, show the pretty cast, huh?
Show our fun-looking cast.
And tell me, who's Amanda? That's Amanda standing,
Okay,
right?
that's Amanda standing over me.
And who's that?
I'm Tom with the cigarette.
Well, who's Amanda? What's her name?
Ginger Grace is playing Amanda Wingfield, and then you have myself, Tom, in the cap and the cigarette. Spencer.
And that looks like someone I recognize. Spencer.
That looks like Spencer. And then, of course, our Laura Wingfield is Alexandra Rose, and that is our cast.
Okay, so now tell us, how did it come to be that you decided to do Glass Menagerie after doing this piece?
Okay, so it's one of my favorite plays, and
who doesn't love it?
Yeah, and I actually played Tom.
I mean, if people don't like Glass Menagerie, I can't talk. It's like a dog. If you don't like a dog,
or if you don't like chocolate,
we have no common ground.
Exactly.
Chocolate too.
Yeah, if you don't like chocolate, I'm suspicious of people who don't like chocolate or dogs, like you said,
or Tennessee Williams. The 3.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Big 3.
So I had done Tom years ago in community theater when I was just starting off, and I always wanted to do it again. So I applied for the rights from Samuel French to do it in North Jersey, because I knew there would be no chance I would ever get the rights to do it in New York City. So they granted me the rights for North Jersey, and I wanted to do it at a theater in North Jersey. And every time I reached out to this theater to try and book a space and plan the production, they never got back to me. So then time was
frustrating.
Yeah, and time was lapsing.
Somebody's saying we're not supposed to do it here, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, then Samuel French, then they're very pleasant to deal with, but they were, kind of putting the pressure on me, like, hey, this needs to be paid by X amount of date. We need to know if you're going ahead with this production. And I said, I can't get a hold of these people. They will not respond to me. And I said, you know what? I know they're going to say no. Just see if I can do it in New York City.
So on a whim, you said?
On a whim, I said, just see if I can do it, in Manhattan, knowing full well that they were going to say no, because it's only done on Broadway.
But you got a yes.
With major act. Well, 2 days later, it came back, and I got a yes. And this was while Austin and I were beginning to plan Wars of the Roses. So then, you got the rights to produce the Glass Menagerie. It's like you want to tell anyone within the sound of your voice. So I was talking to Austin about it, and I told him, and he immediately said to me, well, who's directing it? And I said, well, I don't have a director yet. I just found out I got the rights. And he just went, and I said, okay, yeah. I mean, if Austin Pendleton says he wants to direct your show, you say yes. So
that's the same way Elizabeth Taylor got her $1 million salary for Cleopatra. she said, I'll do it for $1 million plus 10% of the gross, thinking she wouldn't get it.
Right. Yeah. So we got the rights, and it's been kind of in the works for a couple of years now. But I was obviously thrilled that.
Now you have a very interesting concept about playing this, making the play like Tom's nightmare, of that he having left the family when they needed him the most at their darkest time, that he retreated, and something he never. So you have the play. Yeah, as his recurring nightmare.
Sure. So our co-director, Peter Block, who does a wonderful job and did a wonderful job in Wars of the Roses, a huge part of both productions.
I was going to show that. Let's talk about Peter, because Peter, you said, started working on War of Roses when Austin couldn't be available.
So there was about a week period during Wars of the Roses where Austin was unavailable.
And Peter's a director that has directed Austin, so we have some.
Peter was a director who directed Austin in Richard III, so we had this whole Richard III thing going on. And when Austin was gone for that week, 2 summers ago, Peter stepped in and did a wonderful job, directing us in Austin's absence, and really kind of stepped up as the co-director of the show more than an assistant director. And when we were planning the Glass Menagerie and we were going over, scheduling, Austin is the busiest man in the world, so there were periods where he wouldn't be able to rehearse with us. So the logical, step was to say, well, Peter. So this is our second production.
Now, are you in rehearsals now? Have you started yet?
Yes.
So how's it going?
Rehearsals are great.
I think it's going great. I think the show.
But did they both come to rehearsal? Do you only get one at the rehearsal, or did one on different? How does that work?
No, we've had them both a couple of times. Then Peter, and then Austin, and for the most part, because Austin has been so busy, we have had Peter. Directing us for the past few weeks. Austin sort of began the rehearsal process with us, but he's had to take off to do a role in Cleveland.
Oh my gosh! So let's tell everybody that this is going to be playing at the Wild Project. It opens on October 3rd. Is that
so
the
our first preview is October the 3rd.
So the first preview is October 3rd. And when does it open?
The official opening night would be Wednesday, October the 9th.
Wednesday, October the 9th. So Wild Project is 195 West 3rd Street?
East 3rd Street. 195 East 3rd Street on the Lower East Side, yes.
On the Lower East Side in the East Village. And you get tickets. Where do you find tickets?
Okay, so you go to our website, which is www.theglassmenagerieplay.com, and it's got all the information you need: cast, creative, news, stories, ticket links, everything you need to know.
It's a really very pretty website, too, and you can different sections that you can click on, and it will take you to more information.
Oh, it's a gorgeous website, yeah.
But let's show them. You have a trailer. Not a trailer.
No, it's a trailer. It's a trailer.
It's a trailer promo. I saw it before. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's
so it plays
what you were just
your dark
about.
image of making this like Tom's
nightmare,
recurring nightmare.
The haunted Tom Wingfield.
Never goes away. And I can only imagine that if you did what he did, how it would never leave you.
Yeah, I don't think it does leave Tom. I don't think it's a reach what we're going for. I mean, it's in the script that he's a haunted man, and we're just showing that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So let's see it. Very
spooky,
eerie,
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's got an eerie quality to
Definitely.
it.
Definitely, that's what we're going for. We're going for an eerie quality.
It has that.
You said you played this role once before. You said, right?
Yeah, but the production was not eerie, spooky. This will be a totally different production than the one that I was in, many years ago.
So Spencer, how did you two hook up?
Well, so it's funny, along with the I met him through Austin, really. Austin cast
So
me.
so you both knew Austin separately?
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't know Matt. I saw him in Wars of the Roses, and you were great, by the way. But I've told you that before.
He has to say that.
Yeah, it's in the contract. All right, cut that
I
out
told
of
him
the
when
way.
we came in, make sure you tell them how good I was as Richard III.
But you can't make him do it.
Well, he made me.
You can say it all you want.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got you. All right. So I knew Austin for a long time. I worked with him when I was really early starting out, when I was like 19 years old, and I got cast in.
Were you in his class? Class or what?
I worked with him before I started taking his class. I was in A Christmas Carol with him.
Well, what part did you play?
I played young Scrooge to his Scrooge, and so it was amazing, and it was one of the first things that I did in New York City.
Where'd you guys do it?
We did it at the Abingdon before now it's no longer the Abingdon, and we did it like 3 years.
But they still exist. They're just not in the same location.
Yeah,
No.
but yeah, they're not in like the June Havoc theme.
Yeah.
What was it?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
forget if they changed the name. But so I met him there, and we did that each Christmas for like 3 years. And finally, I said to Austin, you know, I kind of mustered up courage and went, you're still teaching, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, can I take class with you? And yes, please come take class. I would love for you to be in my class. And then that started a real relationship between us, where I became a mentee to him, and he became a mentor to me, and worked on a ton of stuff in front of him, and he really guided my acting training in a lot of ways. And so, speaking to like no idea how Matt was able to get New York City rights, was Austin approached me and said, I'm going to be directing The Glass Menagerie with the guy who did Wars of the Roses. And I said, oh, that's great. And he said, I don't know how he did it, but he got the rights for New York City, and I would love for you to play the gentleman caller if you want the part. I said, if I want the part? Well, yeah, I want the part. So then Matt and I were like formally introduced, and immediately had good rapport.
Now, is this the first time, even though you're in class with him and you've put up many scenes over the years, is this the first time he's directed you? I mean, what he does in class isn't exactly directing, he's guiding, right? It's a different,
Yeah,
is it a little different process?
It's a little bit of a different process. It's, you know, in class it's more coaching, it's more he's pushing you to something. And a lot of, I think, his directing process is very similar to that style, but there's more vision behind it. It's, you know, in class, it's more he's
more about your emotions, right?
And he's guiding you to recognize what's in the play and what's in the circumstance of the play. Whereas when he's directing you, he's doing that, but he's also saying, this is how he sees this thing or whatever in his own vision, and not just the sort of objective what's in the play, the objective version of it, but a more sort of subjective, his own view of it. So, you know, it's a little bit different. I mean, but
yeah, I would think it would be. I find it fascinating that he gets to do both things like that.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have such a talented cat. How did Amanda? Where'd you get Amanda? And how did she come to be?
So Amanda, sort of the similar story with Spencer.
Tell us her name again.
Ginger Grace.
And what has she done before?
She's been directed by Austin in a few productions, I believe. So she's worked with him in the director-actress capacity, as well as taking classes with him. So Austin, you know, came to me when we really started to talk about this being a real thing. He had said, you know, I have the perfect Amanda, and I have a gentleman caller, and I said, all right, yeah, sure. He said, can I offer them the roles? And I said, of course. So that's how.
A lot of this project just fell into your lap almost just by asking. Isn't that interesting?
Very
just
strange.
By putting out to the universe
Yeah.
what you wanted, so much supported you. I think it's pretty cool.
And if we have time to even go into how Laura became part of this as well.
Right now. Do it.
So, you know, obviously as a bartender, I have to, you know, I mean,
I didn't know you were a bartender.
Well, I was getting that.
You should have figured that out with all the tattoos.
As an actor,
right?
I have to, yeah.
It's like,
as an actor, you have to, you know, double as a bartender. So,
or a realtor.
Yeah, well, I wish. Yeah. Well, I've been doubling as a bartender, and I was working in a bar in Short Hills, New Jersey, and one night this woman came in and said, we just moved to the area, and we started to talk, and one of the other bartenders that I was working with started to tell her that, you know, I do acting and producing, and she had said, oh, my daughter's an actress. And, you know, you're like, yeah, okay.
I know.
Yeah,
I
sure.
get that all the time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's an actress too. I don't even have one.
You have a daughter that's an actress, too?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so then, like...
I meant Spencer.
Yeah. So then about 2 weeks later, she came back with her daughter, and this girl sits at the bar, and she orders a Shirley Temple. And I said, you're not old enough to sit at the bar. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm 23 years old. But she was just like she just was Laura, you know? And this was going on like...
And delicate, too.
Yeah, very... And
fragile.
Yeah, but a great person. And she was sort of new to the area. So I had said to her, like, oh, hey, you know, I'm going out with some friends on like Monday night. I said, you know, if you're going to be in the city and you want to meet up, it was sort of just to ingratiate her into our clique a little bit.
Right.
And Peter Block happened to be there, our co-director. And she came in and sat, and she'll probably...
So you were kind of... Did you know you were instinctively feeling them out to see if they were going to...
No.
But you were. You realize that, don't you?
Yeah, I was
Afterwards,
just meant to like bring her in and like introduce her.
But you do see afterwards what you were doing.
Yeah, introduce her to the gang. And then while we were sitting there and she was talking to us for a couple hours, Peter leaned over to me and was just like, she's Laura. And I said, okay, full disclosure, Peter, I've never seen her act before. If we bring her in for an audition, you know, if she's terrible, don't put that on me. You know, I said we could bring her in, and she came in and she was great.
And she nailed it.
3 times, she just kept coming back, and she got stronger and stronger and stronger as she continued to go through the callback process.
She's a new actress, though, right?
She is. She's making her professional stage
she has
debut.
the right qualities for this particular
Yeah,
role.
she's done film and commercials out in the other side over in Los Angeles. But she really is the perfect Laura. So same thing. It all just kind of, like you said, it all just fell into place, you know? Didn't have to work too hard to...
Did you see the recent production of
No, the one 2 years ago with
Sam
Gold.
Gold.
With Joe Mantella is the one?
I did not see
That was Sam Gold's production, right? Yeah.
Did you see it?
with Sally
No,
Fielding.
I didn't. Yeah, I heard a lot
Go
of mixed
Google
things.
what I wrote about it, and we won't go into it here.
I
Please
heard,
do.
I heard people loving it, and I heard people absolutely hating it. Not much in between.
I actually stayed so that I could write about it, because I would have left otherwise.
Oh, wow. I think with a play like The Glass Menagerie, though, or, you know, anything that's a real classic, you're always kind of like walking that line because people have an idea of what they think it should be or what they want it to be. And if you go outside of that, sometimes
That wasn't
people
the
don't
case
like
here.
that. Yeah, I didn't see it.
I mean, it's not going outside of what it's supposed to be. I mean, like you talked about, you know, what it's supposed to be. There's what it is. It's one
Right.
thing, okay, and you can't make it something else that it isn't.
Sure.
And that's what they attempted to do. But let's
Yeah.
not go there, because you're not doing that. You're. I mean, what you're doing is really appropriate to the text.
I think
in
so.
a way.
I think it is.
I mean, because. Could you imagine how this? I mean, if this were a real, I mean, it is a real story, and it's Tennessee's nightmare in a way. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's his best play. It's of his plays, The Glass Menagerie is certainly my favorite. And being a big horror fan, and you know, Peter Block, our co-director, also being a big horror fan, you know, we kind of talked about, you know, the concept of this and making it Tom's nightmare, where we're sort of going to be living in this surrealistic world, but performing very naturalistically.
I really think Tennessee Williams could never really accept his success because he had this always haunting him and what he had done to his family to be successful. What I mean, and what's really interesting about it, it almost says, if for him to be successful, he almost had to do that.
You're talking about Tom?
About Tennessee Williams.
Oh, sure, yeah, you know,
I mean, because I think Tennessee Williams was haunted his whole life, like you were suggesting, by what he had to do. And to be successful as a writer, he had to leave his family and focus on his
and
writing.
I think with his sister getting the lobotomy, that haunted him I think he felt that he wished that there was something he could have done to prevent that. So then there's that whole tie with Tom and Laura in this play where he's haunted by his sister. So I think there's definitely some real similarities where Tennessee was haunted by his family, as is Tom is haunted by his family.
So we have only a couple more minutes, so tell our audience again where your website, the Glass Menagerie.
Yes, the glassmenagerieplay.com.
And it opens at the Wild Project on October 3rd. It's the first preview performance. It opens Wednesday, October 8th, is it?
9th. Wednesday, October 9th will be opening night. We start performances Thursday, October the 3rd.
And they have a really interesting concept here, which I can't wait to take a look at it.
Yes, arriving just in time for Halloween.
Yeah.
So anything else? We have a minute more. Anything else you want to
geez,
say about your production?
only a
We didn't
minute.
even get to talk about some of the other things you did. You did The Collector at 59 East 59, which was
Oh, but that's okay. That's okay that we didn't get to talk about that because we want to talk about Glass Menagerie. That's what we're here for. Yeah, I
but
think that's
you
it.
both are, everyone's really worked hard. I mean, to get to here, to be able to do this and bring the right credentials to the Glass Menagerie.
Yeah,
and
I
do it
mean, I
justice.
think it's history, you know? I mean, it's only been done 9 other times as far as I know in the history of New York City, and we're only the second
Oh, I
off-Broadway
didn't know
production.
that. That's interesting.
And this is the 75th anniversary of the Menagerie performances. It started in 1944, and here we are in 2019. So, yeah, we're honored that we're able to produce this show in New York City. I mean, there's nowhere else you'd want to do it. Yeah,
I love the way it came to be, too, that you just had to ask. It was easier than you thought.
Exactly.
It's a lesson for everyone.
It's true.
Sometimes
it's true.
you just gotta ask, even when you think that
Even you think
no
there's no shot. Yeah.
No shot.
And within 2 days, they're like, "Yep, you can do it." And I was like, "Okay."
Well, Matt, Spencer, thank you so much for coming out to Long Island to promote your show and to talk about what you're doing and give us a heads up. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Patrick.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much.
much.
Yeah.